everyone, we are live. My name is Francisco Cantu. I am very excited to be here with you all today on another live stream Monday. I should be live on YouTube and on Facebook. As you know, we do this weekly live streams and we go live on Mondays on YouTube and Facebook, and then we go live on Instagram and TikTok on Tuesdays. Both of those days it's at 3 p.m. Very excited to be joining you all today, and I have a very relevant topic that we'll be covering today that goes along with the stage where we are at on the college admissions journey. I know that around October, that's when the college admissions system or process is in full swing. Why? Because a lot of the early application deadlines start to creep up on people, and the first few sets of applications that can be submitted will be due during the month of October. So it seems as good of a time as any to go ahead and cover the topic that we'll be discussing today, which is early action versus regular decision. So I'm going to be giving you all some tips. I'm going to be explaining the differences, as well as I will be visiting the chat. And as you can see right now, Laura commented, "Hello everyone." As you know, Laura does the monitoring for these live streams on YouTube and Facebook. So throughout the presentation, I will be asking you some engaging questions. So I'll be asking whether or not you are a parent or a student. I will be asking you what grade your student is in, if you are the parent, or what grade are you in if you are the student yourself. And hopefully you will be engaging with me throughout the live stream via the chat, as well as asking questions. So the whole plan, or the way that it's going to work out during the next 45 minutes or so, is that if throughout any point of the presentation you have a question, or I'm explaining something, again, we'll be talking about early action versus regular decision. If I use some wording, if I explain or go in a rabbit hole about something, and something is not necessarily clear, or you are struggling to understand something that I'm saying, you can use the chat feature, again, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook, and then I will go over those questions in the chat. I will be sharing them the same way that I'm currently sharing Laura's comment that says "Hello everyone," and I will be answering those questions. However, if I am going on a tangent about, again, early action, regular decision, whatever it is that I'm talking about, I do invite you to check out the chat, because odds are that Laura may answer your question before I even get to it, right? So that's the way that the chat's going to work out throughout the next 45 minutes. If you want to start warming up those thumbs, letting me know where you are watching from, what state you're watching from, or if you are a parent or a student. And the reason why I'm asking that is because throughout the presentation, I want to know how I should word my examples, how I should word the information that I'm giving out, so that I know what examples to use and whether I should talk to them from the perspective of a parent or a student. So do make use of that chat feature, as Jenna Dean is doing right now, saying hello, Francisco. Hello, Jenna. It's good to see you back here as every week. I really appreciate your support and you being tuned in, and you're going to learn a lot today about the difference between early action and early decision. I also see that Jenna is saying that Jenna is joining from New Jersey, and Jenna is a mom of 2 high school students. So that's great to hear. Throughout the rest of the presentation, Jenna, I will be doing my best to talk about it, or talk about the topics that we'll be discussing, early action and regular decision, from the perspective of a parent and what you can be doing to help your students throughout this process. So thank you for sharing that, and do continue to make use of that chat feature. As I said, I'll be monitoring that, and I'll be answering those questions at the end, and Laura will also be keeping an eye out for those questions, okay? So, as I'm a few housekeeping things before I get started. Again, presentation topic, early action versus regular decision. I'll be doing some tips, and I'll be talking about the main differences. Another thing that I wanted to share before we get started with the presentation is our social media handles across the different platforms: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. They're all at Best College Aid USA. And the reason why I think it's a good idea for you to follow all the different platforms is because the content that we post on each of them is formatted differently. Clearly on TikTok, it's shorter videos with more educational content on the different types of universities, on interviews, people, what they're doing right now after graduating college, where they went to school, biggest lessons they learned. We also share resources for scholarship search tools, all that stuff, and it's in a shorter format. However, if you want to watch one of the longer videos where we do deep dives on certain topics, like I'm doing right now, then YouTube and Facebook might be your best bet. So all in all, I think it's the best idea to just follow across all four of them, because the different information that we share, you're gonna get every single type of content throughout the different types of platforms, and then you can share it with the demographics. So if you have a student, you can share with your students a TikTok, which they might be more likely to open than a Facebook video. So that's just something that I wanted to get out of the way before we get started. And then the last thing I wanted to cover, the last housekeeping item that I wanted to cover before getting started with the presentation, is I wanted to invite you all to the free training that we have attached to the link in the description of this video. So if you're watching us on YouTube, that would be on the description below the video. When you click see more below this video, you'll see a link to this free presentation. And the reason why I think it's a good idea for you to watch this is, number one, it's free. So at worst case scenario, you walk away with actionable steps that you can start following. There is a pitch at the end for the full paid program for Best College Aid. You do not have to join, and we'll continue to do these free live stream presentations as I'm doing right now every week. However, for those of you who enjoy my teaching style, whether it's through this live stream that I'm doing right now, through that free presentation of the 6 strategies to help your children get accepted to college with scholarships, or through, again, contacting us via email, talking to us, whatever the case might be, if you enjoy our teaching style, you want to learn more about the full Best College Aid program, which is sponsoring these live streams, then I do recommend you take advantage of the link in bio with that free presentation, because at the end of that, we have that special offer for all those of you who are watching and who tuned in. So that's the last thing I wanted to share before getting started with the presentation. Again, early action versus regular decision, tips and differences. Let's get started. All right, early action versus regular decision. So the way that I'm going to structure this presentation is I'm going to start with one, go and do a deep dive on each of them, and then I'm going to talk about the differences. And then at the end of the presentation, I'm going to go back to the chat and I'm going to answer any questions, whether it's through YouTube or through Facebook, that I may not have gotten through as the presentation went along. And that should take us all the way to the end of the hour. So that's the way that the next 40 minutes are going to go. So let's get started with the first one, and that is early action. All right, so early action is a type of application in which the students, they apply under a priority deadline, and that deadline is typically a few months earlier than the regular decision deadline. So why does that matter? Why are we discussing this right now? Well, the first batch of universities that are accepting early action deadline start accepting them or having a deadline of October 15th. I know amongst many other schools, I know the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which is where I went to school, which you can see back there is the logo of my school. As a matter of fact, last weekend we're based out of South Florida, so I took a couple of friends and me. We went to the Hard Rock Stadium for the versus UNC game. UNC ended up winning, so it was a phenomenal experience. So I know from firsthand experience that there are universities that do have those really, really early action deadlines. So as I was telling you, the University of North Carolina, among other schools, have early action deadlines that close on October 15th, which is just 5 days away. And these deadlines, they might not all be the same. So while UNC and other schools have an October 15th deadline, there are other universities that have this early action deadline on November 1st, November 15th. Some have them all the way in December. But the whole point or the whole gist of this is that these deadlines are a few months earlier than the typical regular decision deadlines that are usually around January We'll get more into regular decision later on, but it is relevant right now because those applications will be due soon. So throughout the summer, we talked about coming up with a perfect list of colleges. If you didn't get a chance to watch those live streams, you can search them. They're all recorded in our YouTube channel, or you can also check out the presentation, the link in bio. But pretty much, you should know by now what schools you want to apply to. And the whole point of having that list figured out early is so that you know whether or not three, four, five, six, however many universities on your list offer that early action deadline, because you want to capitalize on that. I'll talk a little bit more later on about the benefits of applying early action, but what you want to do right now is be aware of those options so that you do not miss any of the deadlines, because again, as I'll discuss a little bit later on, there are very tangible direct benefits that you will see from applying early. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. I just want to describe early action first. Another element that is important when discussing or describing early action is that it's not binding. And I know that this presentation, we're not going to talk about the concept of early decision, but I will briefly cover the difference between early action and early decision by simply saying that early decision is binding, meaning if you get accepted, you will have to attend the university. And early action is not binding, meaning that you can apply to other universities under early action. And that is the biggest distinction that I want to cover in this presentation. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. I know we've discussed early decision in other live streams, but I just wanted to describe that and let you all know that that is a component of early action. And for the sake of this presentation, do know that in most cases, unless your school has any particular policies, you will be able to apply to as many early action schools as you want to. And then the final component or appeal of early action is that a student will receive those decisions from the universities, whether they have been accepted, whether they have been put on a wait list, or whether they have been rejected. They will get those decisions early on. So again, in my example, I applied to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and by, I forget if it was late December or early January, but by the spring of my senior year, I already knew that I had been accepted to the University of North Carolina, and I already had my financial award package in hand. So that really made the spring semester really, really easy for me, because I had that great acceptance letter at hand that I already had before I even finished applying to my other regular decision schools. So what I'm going to do now, before I move on to the pros and cons of early action, I'm going to check on the chat, and I see that Dan Schrader is saying hello. Hello, Dan Schrader. I hope you are doing well. Thank you so much for watching us. I know that you have been on other of our live streams, so I appreciate you tuning in and continuing to be committed to wanting to learn. And I applaud you for taking the time out of your Monday to try to increase your odds of acceptance and to understand the process. Again, I always say that putting in the hard work early on very much pays dividends as you go through the college application process. So thank you for that. And we have DMOP497. DMOP says, hello, I did early action. So DMOP must be a student who already went through the whole college admissions process, and it sounds as though they did it successfully. And they say that they are also from New Jersey. So DMOP, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate you engaging and letting us know where you are watching from. Before I move on again to the pros and cons, I'm going to read out the final comment, and that is from Dan Schrader saying, does applying for early action affect how much financial aid I could receive? That's an excellent question. So the easiest way to think about the pros or cons in terms of financial aid that applying early has on your overall award package is that by applying early, your university will send you something that is called the financial award package, which is a compilation of the 4 different types of financial aid and scholarships. So it would typically include federal aid, institutional aid. If you qualify, any state aid would be applied there. And then private aid, you would have to apply for by yourself, and then eventually would get factored into that award package. And what I think is the best benefit, or something that will tangibly answer your question, is that if you apply early and you have that financial award package early, and you fill out the FAFSA on time, as we have talked on our previous live streams and in our lessons and inside the free presentation that I invite you all to click on the link below. Well, if you take care of that early on, you will open up yourself, or you will open yourself up to apply to other private scholarships that are niche and that are specific to your situation. And you will also know early on if you need any additional documentation. Let's say you applied early action, early decision, and you got your financial award package and it wasn't as large as you expected, or you realized that you filled out the CSS profile or the free application for federal student aid form. Maybe you didn't fill it out correctly. Well, whatever the case might be, because you applied early and those funds have not been entirely given out to the regular decision folks, then you will have the opportunity to change or amend any mistakes in those financial application forms that you may have submitted wrong. And then by fixing them, you might be eligible to get the money that you otherwise wouldn't have qualified for had you done it wrong. And again, a lot of these awards are given out on a first come, first serve basis. So by figuring all of this out early on, again, you're setting yourself up for success to fix any potential mistakes, or to simply apply to an overall larger sum of money, again, across the 4 different types of scholarships and award packages that are given out at the federal, institutional, state, and private levels. So hopefully that answered your question. And Dan Schrader, I appreciate you coming onto these live streams and always being so interactive with us. Thank you so much. Now I'm going to move on with the presentation. So we left off with a brief description of early action, yep. And now I'm going to move on to the pros. And the pros, or some of the biggest pros for early action, is that, as I mentioned earlier, it creates less stress during the spring of a student's senior year. Why? Because if you have those early action applications submitted and you find out the college's decisions early on, by the time the spring semester rolls around, you may have already a good idea of where you're going to go to college. You may already have a good idea of your financial award packages. You can pivot and apply for more private scholarships, or make any amends to your, forms that maybe were not submitted successfully, or maybe you're already satisfied with your award packages. So because you have time on your side later on in the year, because you already took care of everything early on, you have a less stressful, or your student may have a less stressful senior year, spring. Another benefit, or another pro from early action, is that it gives your student more time to focus on institutional aid or scholarships. That's what I was telling you all earlier when I was answering Dan Schrader's question, is that if you have any sort of form, whether it be the free application for federal student aid or the CSS profile, or if there are any additional documentation or additional forms that are required by your institution or by your state's specific state scholarship program, whether it be Bright Futures in Florida or the Cal Grant or the New York Tuition Assistance Program, whatever state you are from. Let's say you are eligible, or you want to become eligible for state scholarships, by applying early and having the whole college application, element of this process completed, you can focus on those institutional and state sponsored scholarships. And then another benefit, the third one that I'm going to be talking about, is a higher acceptance rate than a regular decision. And that is mainly because a lot of schools who offer early action, and I'm not saying all of them, but something that we teach our students is to, whenever they're making their list, go ahead and check out the components or the latest admitted freshman class, their makeup in regards of what percentage of the students were accepted from regular decision and how many were accepted from early action. And in a lot of cases, the higher student population gets accepted from early action. And if that's the case, it might be better off, or your student might be better off if they have the qualifying SAT, ACT, GPA, whatnot, to apply early, because they would do so under a higher percentage acceptance percentage than those who apply under regular decision. And then the final benefit is that you can apply to multiple schools under early action. And again, there's more of a distinction compared to early decision. All right. Now I'm just going to briefly go over some cons of early action. The cons, I was talking about a more carefree spring semester, but that comes at the expense of a student's fall semester being a bit more busy, because they have to make sure that all those applications are submitted before the October, November, and December deadlines. Another con of early action is that it gives you a little bit less time to finish up your essays, your interviews, your recommendations letters. So if you're a student, or you are the parent of a student who wants to take advantage of those early action deadlines, it's in your best interest to go ahead and ask for those recommendation letters early on, to go ahead and schedule those interviews if necessary by the admissions committee, to keep that in mind, that all those things are going to be, they have to be submitted with anticipation. Those transcripts have to be sent out with anticipation. And this leads me perfectly into the third point, or the third con, is that it gives you less time or less chances to retake the SAT or ACT. Why? Because a college application under an early action application has to be submitted with all of its components finalized. So that means that those SAT or ACT scores have to be submitted before the deadline. So if you have not already done so, and maybe you're not satisfied, or your student's not satisfied with their standardized test score, if you are considering applying early action, it's time to do a cost benefit analysis of how much more likely am I to be accepted under early action versus how much do I foresee that I'm going to improve my SAT or ACT score. We teach our students to compare their own scores versus the 50th percentile of the latest admitted students class, because that gives you a good idea of whether or not you are a strong applicant. And all those factors are things you must consider, or if you're a parent, you should urge your student to consider before they decide whether or not they would be increasing or decreasing their odds of acceptance if they capitalize off of those early action opportunities to apply. So those are the cons that I wanted to discuss with you all regarding early action. Now I am going to move on with the presentation, talk about regular decision, but I will invite you all to go ahead and use the chat to let me know if you are planning to apply early action. You can put a 1 if you're planning to apply to early action, or a 2 if you are not planning on applying early action to schools. All right, let me know so I can get an idea of what you all are considering doing over the next couple of weeks. And while you all do that, I'm going to go ahead and set up the next slide, which talks about regular decision. All right. So as I mentioned, early action, obviously it's the same process, but at an earlier deadline, and it's all in reference to the regular decision deadline. So this is what most students know, which is just the one given date. Most commonly, those days are January 1st or January 15th. However, every school is different. So whenever you have your list of 8 to 12 schools, or however many you're going to end up applying to, or your student is going to end up applying to, it is in y'all's best interest to go ahead and check what those regular decision deadlines are, because some may have it on January 1st, others January 8th, others January 15th. There are some schools that are as late as February. And I've even heard of cases of schools that their rolling admissions extend until March. So everything that I'm saying in this presentation as far as deadlines is talking about the most common application deadlines. However, this is not all schools are due on January 1st, or all college acceptances closed by January 15th. No, this is just the 2 most popular dates. However, once you have your list of colleges, again, after whether you base it on the teachings that we have on these live streams, or whatever your counselor is saying, or maybe you register for a free presentation in the link in bio, whatever inspired you or helped you make that list of reach target and safety schools, you have to go one by one to check out when those admission deadlines are. All right. But the two most common dates that we hear about here in the United States are January 1st and January 15th. All right. And with that being said, typically the decision for those schools, again, could be a little bit later, could be a little bit earlier. It's all depending on the school, but typically those decisions come around March or April. So by the May 1st deadline, which is college decision day, you should have an idea of where you have been accepted, and you should have a financial award package in hand. All right. So that is an overview of what regular decision looks like, what the timeline looks like. Now let's talk about some pros and cons. But before I do that, Aryan is saying hello from India. Hello, Aryan. I hope you're doing well, and I hope that this presentation is being helpful. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, do not hesitate to let us know in this chat. But moving on now to the pros and cons of regular decision. Well, the pros is more time to finalize your college application. So that is everything from essays, interviews, recommendations, everything that we talked about earlier for early action, which you might be a little bit more constrained by. If you apply on the regular decision, you might have more time to go ahead and ask those professors for those recommendation letters. You may have more time to pre-write and then draft and then revise and finalize those essays, which takes me perfectly into the next benefit, which is more time to retake the SAT or ACT. So this goes more hand in hand with the step that I was talking about earlier on, which is you always want to compare your own admission statistics, GPA, SAT, ACT, volunteer work, all those things with the latest admitted students class 50th percentile. That's what we teach our best college age students to do. And if you see that you are below, let's say in the ACT, you are below the 50th percentile of the latest admitted student class, then you know that you should categorize that respective school in either a reach, a target, or a safety school, again, depending on how yours stacks up against the average student at that school. And by applying regular decision, assuming you do not have those competitive scores that you would want to, well, this gives you an opportunity to go ahead and register for those fall and winter SAT or ACTs, and hopefully get your score to a point that makes you a more competitive applicant. And again, vice versa, if you already have those scores under your belt, then those early action deadlines might be a better alternative. All right. But moving on to the final pro of regular decision is that it gives you more time to apply for or qualify to state or private scholarships. And this, what I mean by this is a lot of these merit-based scholarships. I know I keep talking about in Florida, we have Bright Futures, the New York Tuition Assistance Program, the Cal Grants. Again, every state has their own policies and their own scholarships. Whatever the case might be for your state, if you do want to qualify for those state scholarships, by having an extra chance or an extra set of days to take the SAT or ACT, or an extra semester to bring your GPA up, if you are not eligible yet for those state scholarships or those private scholarships, which might be, again, merit-based, that require you to have certain volunteer hours or certain GPA, SAT, whatever it might be, well, by having that extra time, you could push yourself over to that threshold so you could qualify for those scholarships and for those state-based grants, loans, all that good stuff. So that is a benefit of having that additional time. Moving on to the cons of regular decision. Again, the whole point, I'm not saying pros or cons to advocate for one over the other. It's just so that you all have a good understanding of what each decision entails, and you can, based on your situation, again, assuming you are either above those statistics or below the statistics, or you have time or you have not started, you can make the best decision for you. So last thing I wanted to do regarding regular decision is go over the cons, and that makes it so that although your fall is a little bit more relaxed, because you may not necessarily have to worry about finishing those applications by the October 15th deadline or the November early action deadline or even the December deadlines, that makes it so that your spring is a little bit more front loaded or a little bit more packed with deadlines and with scholarship applications that you have to submit, with college applications that you have to submit. So makes it a little bit more heavy for your spring semester of senior year, which a lot of our students don't want because they want to prioritize on enjoying the last semester of high school. So that's something to consider. Another con is that because a lot of these scholarships, right? A lot of the scholarships that require the FAFSA, the CSS profile, many students who do not apply early, they might also push off their submission of forms like the CSS profile or the free application for federal student aid. And a lot of these merit-based awards, or not even those, some scholarships that are given out at the state level, if they are put off, there's a lot of scholarships that get given out on a first come first serve basis. So waiting might just make the sum of money or the pool of money available to be dispensed a little bit smaller. So that's something to keep in mind. And then another con could be that since more students wait till regular decision to apply to certain universities, you would want to check what the admission statistics are at each specific school with regards to the population, the student population that gets admitted through regular decision versus early action, if that's what they offer. Because in some cases, it might be that the regular admissions or the regular decision applicants have a significantly lower acceptance rate. Now, some people might argue that that's because early action applicants might just have better applications themselves just because they are on top of things and they submitted with a stronger application, higher GPAs, higher SATs, higher ACTs, whatever it might be. The fact of the matter is that you will want to make your research, do your research, and check out what these admission statistics are at each school so that you give yourself the best fighting chance. Because in a lot of cases, students have the required documentation, the required GPA, SAT, ACT to have a strong application, but just because they do not take advantage of these early action deadlines, they might apply under a not so favorable set of conditions, which would be regular decision. So yeah, do make sure that you plan ahead and that you compare your current academics with those of the pre-existing students, so that if you have the chance to apply under early action and your university accepts more students through early action, the regular decision, then you take advantage of that. All right. So as far as regular decision versus early action, that is all I had. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a second to share with you all, we are having a Hispanic Heritage Month sale. If you watch these presentations, you will know that my siblings and I'll get to the questions in just a little bit, but I do want to share with you all before I get to the Q&A session that if you have been watching this presentation, you know that my siblings and we moved from Mexico in 2011, went through the whole college admissions process, and now this is what we do for a living. We try to help families get the best sort of education to understand the college admissions process and how to finance it. And in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, we are having a special offer. Again, we're going to continue to do these free live stream presentations every Monday, and the presentation in the link in bio, that is a presentation for the 6 steps to go to college with scholarships, will continue to be free. But for those of you who have enjoyed the last 37 minutes of me talking, and once I get to those questions, I'll answer them. And if you decide that after I answer your questions or after registering for that free training that you would want to learn more, then I do recommend that you stick around till the offer at the end of the link in bio so you can take advantage of this special Hispanic Heritage Month discount that we're going to be having. So the steps are, if you're interested in learning more, go check out that link in bio. It's a free 1-hour presentation. And if after watching that presentation, you are interested in Best College Aid, or you want to join our program, or you're just curious to see what we offer, then stick around for the end of that presentation, because that's when we share the discount. But that's all I wanted to share. Again, no strings attached. I'm going to continue to tune in, and I'm still going to go back through the chat and answer any questions I didn't get to, because we understand that not everyone has the means, or not everyone is interested in joining the full paid program. But for those of you who want to, we have close to a little bit over 1,000 students now in our paid program, and every year we get, even in the Spanish live stream, we were just getting comments about how last year they joined Best College Aid. We got a lot of members who tune into our live streams and just share their success stories. Every day we get success stories shared on our private Facebook group. We have gotten students to Northeastern. We have gotten students accepted to Harvard University. We have gotten students accepted to the University of North Carolina, to the University of Miami. So if you're interested in being one of those families, do check out the link in bio. Let me go ahead and share with you all how you do that. So if you're watching on YouTube, this is what you would be seeing. And if you go down here to more and you click this link for the free training, you go ahead and you click on that link, and it should take you to the free training. And all you have to do is click save my seat, put your first and last name, and you will be watching the presentation given by me. Again, 6 steps to go to college with scholarships. I give out this presentation. At the end, you will have the option to take advantage of this Hispanic Heritage Month sale that we are running, and it will run until the end of the month. But that is it. I will now be going back to answering questions. All right. So questions. I'm going to go in the chat, and I see now that the first question is from Aryan. Okay, Aryan, you are asking, if I complete the application process in October, when will decisions come out? That's an excellent question. So in the beginning of the presentation, when I was talking about early action, right, there are a few key dates or a few recurring popular early action deadlines. The first one is that October 15th deadline. I believe there's around 15 schools. I know the University of North Carolina is certainly one of them that offer those October 15th deadlines. Others will offer their early action deadline November 1st, November 15th, others in December. And typically what we see with these universities, each school is going to have a different timetable. Each school is going to have on their own admission site when their decisions will come out. But specifically for the October deadline, I would guess, or from history, from our students and from our experiences, it could be anywhere from December to middle of January, give or take 2 weeks. That's usually the timetable of those early applications. So there are schools that make sure to do it before the holidays. There are schools who do it as soon as students get back to school. So that is kind of what you can expect if you apply under early action. Again, what I recommend you do is, once you have your list of 8 to 12 schools that you're going to be applying to, usually they have on their admissions page, they have a more in-depth description of what the timetable, what the timeline is going to look like for the following months after everything gets submitted. But what we always recommend our students, and this, you may have not necessarily asked this, but I think it's a good opportunity to share with everyone watching this. After your application gets submitted and you no longer have to worry about the get accepted to college aspect of the process. So once all those college applications are submitted, you want to pivot, or in parallel, you want to pay attention to all those different applications that you have to submit for financial aid and for scholarships, right? You don't want to just sit tight and wait until your acceptance to realize or to figure out how much money you're going to get to pay for college. You will want to pivot, and you will want to focus on, okay, what forms am I eligible for, or what sort of aid out of the 4 types of aid: federal, institutional, state, and private aid, which ones do I qualify for? And based on that, okay, I qualify for state aid, or I qualify for private scholarships, or I qualify for institutional aid. What do I have to do for each of those? Oh, okay, the school that I applied to, in order to qualify for institutional aid, maybe you have to fill out the CSS profile, which opened up on October 1st. Maybe for this state scholarship, you have a minimum GPA or a minimum SAT or ACT that you have to obtain. So focusing on that as well with, okay, what private scholarships do I qualify for? And I've said it in all of our live streams. And when you register for the free presentation on the link in bio and the description of this video, you're going to see that the more specific you are about the private scholarships you apply for. So whether it is I'm going to make something up, the Southeast Florida scholarship for Mexican immigrants who wear glasses. I'm just saying anything I'm a Mexican immigrant who wears glasses who is in Southeast Florida. Obviously, that's an example, but the whole point of it's a very specific scholarship that's going to have way fewer applicants than the 12,000 students who will apply to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation scholarship. You might be only a $500 scholarship, but I'm competing against a handful of other people versus competing with thousands of other people. So we always recommend to our students that the more specific and the more niche they are with their scholarships, the higher the odds they have of receiving them. And it's better to get, a good fighting chance at a bunch of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 scholarships, $500 scholarships, then have a very, 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 very minimal chance at one of those full ride scholarships, which, hey, all power to you. You can continue to apply to them. And I'm not telling you not to, but I'm saying do make sure you give yourself the best fighting chance at each of the scholarships you end up applying to. But that was an excellent question, Aryan. I'm going through the chat to see if I have any more questions. If I do not see any more questions, I am going to finish up with inviting you all to, again, check out that free training on the 6 strategies to help your children get accepted to college with scholarships. If you're a parent, this will be applicable to your children. This will be applicable to you as a parent, what you should be doing. If you're a student yourself, we outline a lot of the steps that you should be taking, whether you are a senior right now and you are crunching everything and you're trying to get everything done as soon as possible, or if you are a parent yourself, if you're a middle schooler or a freshman in high school, sophomore in high school, what should be the long-term plan to go ahead and make sure that you strengthen your application and that you do the things that your peers might not necessarily be doing to put the best foot forward in the eyes of college admissions officers. So I give out this presentation. We have been having free trainings for many years now. This one in particular, again, that is on the link in bio. We finished recording it last week. It just got edited. It's fresh out the oven. It's a brand new training with everything as late as of the October of 2022. So I very, very much encourage you all to watch it. I put a lot of time and effort into preparing that presentation for you all. It's completely free. All you have to do is go ahead and check out on this link below the YouTube video or in Facebook. You go ahead and you check out this link that says register for the free training. And all you have to do is save my seat, put your name, last name, phone number, and boom, you're good to go. Again, I will say that we do, at the end of the presentation, make an offer for the full paid program. That's just full disclaimer. That's what enables us. That program is what enables us to come here and do these free live streams and sit down and answer your questions and do best college aid. And we will continue to do these trainings no matter whether or not you decide to join the full paid program. But it is an opportunity to, if you are curious or you want to learn more or you are enjoying the way that I teach or explain things or answer questions, well, it's a great opportunity for you to get that more personalized help and to get a more comprehensive set of steps on the road to college. So that is it that I have for today. I've been monitoring the chat and I don't see any more questions. I will continue to see the chat in the next few seconds while I say goodbye, but I seem to have answered everything. I want to thank you all again for spending this time with me. This is the highlight of my week. As always, I will be back on YouTube and Facebook next Monday at 3 p.m., just like I was today. And on Tuesday, so tomorrow, I will be on Instagram and TikTok at Best College Aid USA. If you are a parent and you want to share these presentations with your students so they can get this information firsthand, that's great. Or if you're a student and you want to share this with your parents so you can help them help you, That's also great. Again, at Best College at USA, we do these free live streams every week at 3 p.m. So let me know if you have any questions. Once again, thank you so much for the opportunity to spend this time with you all. I'm Francisco Cantu, and I will see you all next week. Take care.